Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Let me see why we have... I'm here. Oh, let's try it again. Live?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. And obviously, every time we go live, we seem to have an issue, but we are back now. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you had an opportunity to watch our video that we put up today. And of course, when I sit down, my computer freezes up, and then I had to go to the backup here on the laptop. Apologize for being a few minutes late, but it's been one of those busy days. Came out of a meeting, checked my email, and what do I see there? That's right. Lori Vallow has been indicted for murder in Arizona. Wow. I'm glad they finally got around to that. But it's done. Lori Vallow has been charged one count in the Superior Court of the state of Arizona for the county of Maricopa. Count 1, conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree, a class 1 felony, and it's considered dangerous. The grand jurors of Maricopa County, Arizona, accused Lori Vallow on June 24th, 2021, that in Maricopa County, Arizona, count 1, Lori N. Vallow, on or about July 11th, 2019, with intent to promote or aid the commission of an offense, to wit, first-degree murder, agreed with Alexander Cox that at least one of them or another would engage in conduct constituting the offense of first-degree murder in violation of the applicable Arizona revised statutes. The state further alleges that the offense charged in this count is dangerous felony because the offense involved the discharge, use, or threatening exhibition of a gun, a deadly weapon, or dangerous instrument, and or the intentional or knowing infliction of serious physical injury upon Charles Vallow. So, as most people know, they've been following the Lori Vallow matters. Her, I guess, ex-husband, they were trying to get the divorce at the time. I have to go back and double check. I don't think it ever actually got finalized, but the Charles Vallow was killed by Alex Cox, who is Lori Vallow's brother, who died some 4 months later, I believe, is roughly the time frame. And then the police originally just determined this was self-defense. It was claimed by Alex Cox that Charles Vallow came at Alex Cox with basically a bat and that he somehow defended himself. I guess the question now becomes, what new evidence have the police finally been able to uncover that they weren't able to uncover back, on the date when this allegedly took place, back on July 11th of 2019? I think the logical explanation would be that there must be something that was found in a lot of the cell phone dumps, some information. Now, Lori Vallow, who we also know has been found not to be competent to basically proceed with the court proceedings in Idaho, may hope that she never comes out of her state right now that she's in, which is basically that she's not competent to proceed. Because once she truly realizes the legal mess that she has found herself in, she may wish that she gets to stay at the state hospital and not ultimately have to go back to or go to prison. She is got a lot of legal problems going on right now. She had, the first it was the child abandonment case where, she looked at 14 years. They dismissed that except for the one count of basically lying. Then they had the case with Chad Daybell regarding the destruction, tampering with evidence. And then they obviously get the murder charges. Those charges are set for trial for the husband, Chad Daybell, and he's also charged with the death of his wife. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that this woman, Lori Vallow, she is like a black widow. Everyone around her dies. I've jokingly said, and I think there maybe at this point, there may be some accuracy to it. Chad Daybell never really tried to get out of custody, never really put up a fight, and maybe he feels safer in custody. I just curious when he must have figured it out, when he was actually like maybe in danger. Like everyone dies, her brother, her ex-husbands. He's got to be a little concerned. And I don't think that they are going to be able to, run off into the sunset, maybe head off to Hawaii and enjoy that life that they had planned together. This is just, Lori Vallow needs to make herself comfortable. And I guess really the only question that we need to ask is Mark Means licensed in the great state of Arizona? Or more importantly, will he be charged? Or will he be able to be admitted into the great state of Arizona to go represent Lori Vallow, a client in which he seems to have devoted a huge amount of personal interest in? As we talked about in today's show, he springs up at 4 a.m. to go get the discovery, and it's not there, and now he demands $4,000 in his time and his attorney's fees, etc. Not going to get it. Would be literally fall out of the chair if the judge ordered that. Why don't you just communicate? Hey, is it ready to go? What do I need to do? But he doesn't do that. But that was what we've talked about before. It's called being a professional. You be professional and say, here, I'm doing this. I'm being nice. What could I do? And then when you get the runaround, you attach all those emails to your motions. You don't, basically say, I'm going to set them up. I'm going to show up. I'm going to drive 5 hours each way, and I'm going to just simply demand my discovery. So I don't know. But hey, like I said, maybe we should send him a mug just for being able to talk about stuff. Never a dull moment with Mr. Means around. All right, super chat here. If Lori never had her first appearance in murder, why can Means demand discovery? Good question. All right, we've mentioned this before. Now, when somebody is found not to be competent, they need to be restored to competency. The case is stalled in the sense that you can't move the case forward in the court until the defendant is competent to proceed, because you want to make sure that they understand and appreciate what's taking place, what are the consequences, and will they be able to participate with their defense counsel in assisting them in the defense of their case. That's really what it's there for. Now, can the defense continue to work on the case while somebody is being restored? Absolutely. It probably makes sense to do that, particularly if the case is, for lack of a better term, not an old or stale, cold case in the sense that time hasn't gone by where you need to get on in that investigation right away. In this particular case, nobody knows exactly how long it'll take to restore Lori Vallow to competency, if at all. So, yes, I understand the need to want the discovery. However, it's not like you have a deadline for a motions hearing that you have to, review the discovery, analyze it, draft motions to engage in motions practice. I mean, I just don't see the rush. Yes, you want to get it, but I would anticipate, if I was there, that most of the discovery that's already been produced is going to be a duplication of what has already been produced. There may be some new things, but it sounds like the government is doing it. And I get it. It's my pet peeve as well. Government indicts somebody. You're basically telling the court and the defendant, we are ready to try you within the speedy trial time limits set out by, the state statute or even a federal statute. So it's like, all right, where's my discovery? Don't tell me, oh, the discovery's so voluminous, it's going to take, 4 months. Well, my client's got a right to speedy trial, Judge. Why should it be charged against me? I get that. But the proceedings are stayed. So I'm not sure that I would go around trying to poke fingers in people's eyes. It's basically saying, they're not giving me the discovery. I demand it, Judge. I demand it. I mean, get over it. Just be a professional. I mean, what is so important? The case has been stayed. It doesn't make any sense. So hopefully that answers your question, Dee Dee. Kay wants to know, what about Sunshine? Well, doesn't appear as though he has been charged in Arizona. I mean, they have to have evidence. I'm still not sure what, the evidence here is. You have the dead brother, Alex Cox, who everybody agrees, shot Charles Vallow. They claim self-defense. Police said self-defense. It wasn't until pressure came. Really, if the Idaho situation hadn't developed, this case was, for a lack of a better term, kind of closed. Nobody would have said anything. And then the question becomes, it's one thing to get an indictment, and you hope that most prosecutors say, hey, I got to be able to prove this. So what evidence are they going to be able to bring in showing that there was, in fact, a conspiracy to basically go over, allegedly be assaulted by the bat-wielding Charles Vallow, and then shoot him? Now, I've seen some information where, Charles Vallow apparently used to play baseball, and if he was going to swing a baseball, bat at somebody's head, he would have taken somebody's head off, or, they would have been injured. So a lot of people say that just simply could not have happened, or at least didn't go down that way, and what have you. But, like I said, as things go on, it'll be interesting to see what takes place. So then the next, I think, logical question is, okay, Lori Vallow has been indicted in Arizona, Maricopa County, 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. When is she going to get there? Probably not anytime soon. Okay? What does Arizona have to do to get her to Arizona? Well, they have to extradite her. Idaho's not going to let her go until their matters are wrapped up. And we don't know when those are going to be wrapped up, because we don't know when she'll be restored to competency, if ever. She'll be held there. Now, there'll be a warrant for her arrest, and that will be out there. So it's not like she's going to go beyond bond or anything like that. She'll always have Arizona hanging up out there. But Idaho has her. She's in primary Idaho custody. Idaho's not going to send her back to Arizona, and then they start this, well, you can have her for a week, we'll have her for a week. It doesn't work that way. Now, like all things, there are exceptions to the rule, but let's say Lori Vallow is found to be competent and we get back on track, ready to go. Once again, Idaho's not going to let her go. They're not going to let her go out of the jurisdiction, even on a writ, because the speedy trial would be clicking. It would be ticking away. And so they're not going to jeopardize that. If she was convicted, sentenced to prison in Idaho, the warrant would be there, and there would be a detainer against her saying, hey, you can't release her because she you have to send her to Arizona first. She could, if she was in custody, file what they call a mandatory, file the paperwork. Basically, when you get to prison, they look at your paperwork and they say, hey, it looks like you have a detainer or warrants out of a particular state. Then you have to submit paperwork. It goes through the warden and it says, hey, we have this prisoner here who wants to resolve this case down in Arizona. And so they send out the paperwork, and it's the Uniform Mandatory Disposition of Detainers Act. And like I said, it has to be filled out, signed by the warden. Then it gets filed with the court in the state where it is. And I think all but one state, maybe Louisiana or something, is a member to this. I mean, it's this compact law where everybody kind of follows it. And at that point, they'd say, hey, come get you. But once all her matters are resolved in Idaho, then Arizona would have to come get the person. And then they would usually have, I think it's 6 months, but it may vary depending on states. So don't hold me to that exact amount, to get her to trial from the time that Arizona said, hey, you need to come get Lori Vallow. But I don't see that happening until and if everything is resolved in Idaho. Idaho's got her first. Arizona gets to wait. I've seen similar situations where maybe, let's say hypothetically, a client leaves the jurisdiction, maybe gets arrested in another jurisdiction on a new case. Well, that state has them, but Colorado says, hey, we want that guy back here so that we can continue to prosecute him. That other state says, no, he's mine until and if this is resolved. And once he gets sentenced or acquitted, then you guys can have him back. So I wouldn't get too excited about any kind of court appearances anytime soon. Counsel will not even be appointed for Lori Vallow until she appears in Arizona. And that could be years at this point, and maybe even longer if she's not restored to competency anytime soon. So that's kind of what's going on today. Late breaking news. I mean, you never know on a Tuesday night. Stuff always seems to pop up right as we're getting ready to go on the air. Kate, I hopefully answered your question. Do they extradite her to Arizona since the charges are more serious? No, I would actually say the Idaho charges are more serious, if I read your question correctly. Dee Dee, okay, if Lori's never had a first appearance, why can Means demand discovery? He should be able to get the discovery, but come on, let's be realistic. It's not like you got a court appearance tomorrow regarding this. They've set a hearing for, what do we say? Is it Thursday?
Yeah, next Thursday. Yeah.
Next Thursday.
Yeah.
No, this Thursday, July 1st. Yeah.
July 1st.
So it's set Thursday for the hearing, and hopefully we'll be able to bring it to you. The outraged Mr. Means will need, his discovery, and he needs it now, and impose sanctions. And like I said, I've never seen it, but hey, I've never practiced in Idaho, so maybe it'll happen. I don't think it will. So we'll just have to wait and see. Let's see if we can take a couple of more questions here. So the Lifetime movie that came out, Cult Mom on Lifetime, I think it was. The CrimeTalk staff has watched it. Julie said multitask. There were a couple interesting things she didn't know. Am I paraphrasing that correctly, Julie? But she said it was interesting. She said the acting was not going to win, I guess, an Emmy, since it's an evening show. It wouldn't be an Oscar. It'd be an Emmy. The acting probably wasn't going to do it. She thought the kids' acting was a little better. I actually was going to watch it last night. And as I was getting ready to go up to my top patio and partake of a fine cigar, I was going to watch the Lifetime series so I could talk about it this evening. But then what happened? Things come up in the practice of law. I get a phone call, and I really look at it, and it's 8:30, maybe 8:45 at night, something like that. And I didn't recognize the number. It was coming from some weird number. I'm like, oh, they're probably calling to let me know that my, auto warranty is expiring. But I answered anyway because I'm just curious. And it was a potential client, a referral from an attorney, said call, somebody had been arrested. Did I get to watch the movie? I didn't get to watch the movie. No. I wound up going to a jail, spending my Monday night at the jail to make sure that people were comfortable with the situation, letting them know that I will be there for them bright and early at 8 a.m. tomorrow, the following morning. I think I returned home about 10:45-ish. Welcome to the world of criminal defense, ladies and gentlemen. If you are ever thinking about becoming a criminal defense an attorney, just remember you work all the time. It's kind of like airline pilots. You work all the holidays, evenings and weekends, because that's when people want to travel. People seem to always get in trouble on a Monday night. I'm not exactly sure why. Saturday, you need like a safety briefing, the old don't add to the population, don't decrease from the population, don't embarrass yourself and those around you, but if you do, call me, that kind of thing. So, it is, I didn't get around to watching the movie, but I intend to do so. And I think there was a part, as I was being told by Julie, that there was a little scene regarding this. Like she was very nonchalant, like, oh, by the way, your husband, your ex-husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, was just killed. Oh, okay, yeah, that's great. Move along. Very nonchalant, which we've seen in the body cam video that's been released in that particular case. I've never met Lori Vallow, but there's something that's not right. Obviously, the professional determined there's something not wired right with her either. But at the end of the day, she's going to have to be given the presumption of innocence. And we'll see how things ultimately work out at trial for her. At least she's got a defense attorney that really, really, really is taking an interest in her case and, really just wants to be there for everything. So, like I said, the question is really, will Mark Means become licensed in Arizona so that he can represent Lori Vallow down there? And more importantly, would he do it maybe pro bono? We'll see. We'll see the hearing on Thursday. We'll see if he gets any relief from his motions, but I just don't think he will. So obviously that's what we've talked about, kind of the big news, breaking news. I'll, kind of scroll through the comments here and see what is, let's see here. Molly says, and see what the questions are. Molly Stafford, Melanie Gibb probably gave info on Lori getting Alex to shoot him. That can be the most obvious info and probably emails from Melanie and Lori. Yeah, my guess is there's some sort of electronic communication, text messages, back and forth. I mean, the amount of information that they can retrieve from, all these phones, it's amazing. And, you should never write a text message or an email that you wouldn't want to be seen on the front page of a paper or the evening news. And, but people do it all the time. I don't get it. Okay. We've talked about this before. We like to bring you information about a case, how things really work in the real world. Okay. And some people think, and I don't know why some people think this, but when somebody is charged in a criminal case, under the rules of evidence, anything that person says is basically considered an admission by a party opponent. It's non-hearsay. But somehow when people get arrested, they somehow think that, oh, yeah, I confessed to all those people, but that's just hearsay. Well, no, it's not. It's an admission by a party opponent. Yes, that person has to come to court and say, that's the person over there sitting at the defense table that said this, and therefore it's admission. You can't have somebody else come and say what this other person was told. That would be hearsay. Hearsay, an out-of-court statement being offered for the truth of the matter asserted, right? The best way you can tell hearsay is when the witness on the witness stand wants to say what somebody else said. Objection. Hearsay. Now, like everything in the law, there are exceptions, and there's lots of hearsay exceptions. But for the most part, usually what somebody's going to testify to on the witness stand that was said by another person, unless it's a defendant or a co-conspirator, it's hearsay, okay? Now, if we just get most judges to realize that, and I hate, there's always a, well, your judge, it's not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. Well, then why is it relevant, Judge? Because we're on a quest for the truth. But DAs always try to get around it with that BS statement. Good judges don't fall for it. Well, Judge, it's not being for the offer for the truth of the matter asserted, just simply for the fact that it was said. Okay, Judge, then just say, we had a conversation. Why do you have to say what was said if it's not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted? Well, we want to prejudice your client as much as we can, and the only way to do that is to allow that in, Mr. Reich, so we're going to allow that in. But, hey, I may not know much about many things, but the one thing I have been able to figure out is the fact that you have to know the rules of evidence. The rules of evidence are the rules that you play by, just like a coach knows the rules of the game that he's playing, what you can do, what you can't say. That's what you have to know. Rules of evidence are the only thing that matters. I hate to say this, but little secret just between all of us, most prosecutors don't really know the rules of evidence because the judges always let them have what they want, okay? One of my pet peeves, Judge, it's not your job to do their job. Your job is as an impartial judge, calling balls and strikes, just like an umpire behind the plate. You shouldn't care who wins or who loses. You shouldn't, lean one way or the other because you don't like maybe a particular defendant. Call balls and strikes. That's all you can ask for. Just give me a fair trial at the end of the day. Let's see here. GM me. I'm so interested in the Murdock case. Very intriguing, as am I. I think it's very intriguing. For those of you who don't know about the Murdock case, that's Paul and Maggie Murdoch were at their hunting lodge when the father and spouse of Maggie comes home, finds Paul, who's actually under indictment. He's been shot. Maggie's been shot. Apparently, Maggie was shot, by some sort of rifle. Paul was shot by a shotgun. Both apparently died at the scene. But since then, they've reopened an investigation based upon information that they've found at the house regarding a hit and run a couple years prior, which would make you think that maybe somebody at that Murdoch house maybe was involved in that, right? And then you had Paul Murdoch, who was under indictment for the death of a young woman, Melanie Beach was her name, where they're out at a party. They go out for this, I think they're oysters, clams, something like that, doing a clam bake. They've been drinking. They're in the boat. People urge them, don't drive. No. They're going to go hit a couple more bars. And apparently old young Paul Murdoch hit the boat. It's dark. It's late at night. Hits, the stanchion in the bridge, throwing her from the boat. They don't find her remains for a week later. he's from a very influential family who had a bunch of prosecutors in the family for like the last 87 years in this particular county in South Carolina. Things are kind of delayed, but ultimately kind of public pressure, and they got to file charges. Well, those charges are now dismissed. There's still a civil case going on. But a lot of people think that this young Murdoch kid got a lot of breaks thrown his way because of his family. I mean, if you want to talk about a little bit of privilege, this is probably the case for that. Is there a two-tier system of justice? I mean, let's not be naive, people. Yes, there is. If you have lots of money, you certainly can get a much better defense than if you have no money. If you have power and influence, maybe you're not going to get charged. I think we see that all the time, particularly when it comes to political figures. And I'm talking both sides, both parties, that nothing ever seems to happen to any of them. And if that were you and me, you know as well as I do, the FBI would be on your front doorstep telling you to put your arms out or put your arms behind your back. So, we'll continue to follow the Murdoch case. I think it's going to be very interesting. They towed the car away the other day. Only that one car. Not sure what. It was we'll have to... it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be really interesting. And I think a lot of influential people will probably be shown to have extended favors that may not be extended to everyday people like you and me. And I think there's going to be some embarrassment and maybe even some resignations. But that's just my prediction. Okie dokie. Do you think the judge can and will approve Means' request to be involved in Lori's case? No, I don't think the judge is going to allow Mr. Means to be involved in the restoration of Lori Vallow at the state hospital for competency reasons. There's no reason for that. Mr. Means is not a doctor. He may have a JD, a doctor of jurisprudence, but he is not a medical doctor. Well, there's a difference. And the court has no jurisdiction whatsoever to allow the attorney to be involved in that process. Don't see it happening. I mean, think about your own personal experience. Have somebody in the hospital. Hey, I'm not a doctor, but I stayed at Holiday Inn Express last night. Why don't you let me take a look at those, that CAT scan and see what's going on, right? It's not going to happen. That's the equivalent of what Mark Means is asking for. Will he get updates like everybody else in the case? Yes. There's going to be various reviews, status reports that are going to be sent to the court. Usually it's like, hey, here's a 90-day milestone, still not competent, hasn't been restored. Let's set another review, another 90 days out. He'll get updates like that. But you're not going to be able to be involved. No, nor should any attorney. I don't understand what you would think. I mean, is Mr. Means going to hire his own doctors to restore her? Well, if that was the case, he should have done that for the last year. We'll have to wait and see. So, Uncivil Law comments, loving your work. Thanks for that super chat. We don't ask for super chats, but I'm not going to lie. It is much easier to see them because they get highlighted here in the box as it rolls by. So appreciate that. Thanks, Uncivil Law. I like the name of that too. Nana, be yourself. Thanks for that super chat as well. Let's see. Pro bono. How dumb would it be for an attorney for Lori to do? He loses twice. Yeah. And I had somebody, I always get calls like, hey, do you need pro bono work? Do you do any pro bono work? Yeah, no. Did it in a couple of times most terrible experience. I just don't do pro bono work because you have to do the case like you're, frankly, you have to do an investigation. Oh, I got to hire an expert. I got to do this. And I'm just at the point, I don't have the time to do that. And every time I've done it, it's wound up to be a horrible experience. Usually very unappreciative people, if they're not paying for something, they don't appreciate the value of your time and your experience. So, people can do it. I think a lot of people do it. More people do it in the civil world. But my pro bono work is basically when somebody stiffs me on paying me what they owe me. And I don't like that either. That really chaps my hide, particularly when you win, all right? And you still get stiffed. I should try to find it, but there's this thing. It's like a bell-shaped curve. Maybe I can put it up on the monitor here, but we'll talk about that more in a minute. Let's go back to some more of the comments. Sally Yotes, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Camp Means represent Lori pro hoc vice in Arizona. Good question, Sally. First, what is pro hoc vice? Basically, that's asking to be admitted to practice on a limited basis in a court for a particular case. Most jurisdictions require that you have local counsel as well. They have to basically vouch for you to, say, hey, they're good guy, outstanding reputation, because they're putting their reputation on the line as well. And you always want local counsel on something like that because you want to have a local guy tell you, okay, how's it really done? I know here's the rules, but what does this judge do? I've done cases outside the state in Colorado, both in state and federal court, been admitted pro hoc vice on several occasions. It's not hard, but it's usually you have to find somebody on the other end that's willing to basically say, because you got to pay them, right? Because no attorney works for free. They're going to say, well, how am I going to get paid? Even if I'm just showing up to every court appearance, which I'll be required to do. And oh, by the way, my name's on it. And if you bail, guess who gets stuck, doing all this stuff? It's me. So the local counsel is the better issue. Pro hoc vice, yes. But, sometimes I had a matter once, I think it was in New Mexico. It was a federal case. Friend of mine called me and said, hey, doing this case, you want to do this case with me? And I was like, okay, fine. What do I need to do? Pro hoc vice. Basically, I had to submit a resume showing that I was, competent. Like, okay, here's my resume. Doing this for, 20 plus years, criminal defense, and these kind of cases, homicides, boom, 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 racketeering cases. Been qualified as an expert witness in these cases. And the judge says, okay, it looks like, you can, which podium to stand up on, or which table to go sit on, have a seat, you're admitted. So, yeah, he could try to be permitted pro hoc vice, but why? I mean, why? I mean, why? Let somebody else do it. Let her get the public defender appointed to her when she is finally extradited back to Arizona. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, just think about it. And maybe, Chad, he knows all this stuff. Maybe he was a part of some of it. Who knows exactly? But do you think he sits in his little cell at night and goes to bed and say, my God, getting involved with this Lori Vallow woman was the best thing that ever happened to me? He had a wife, kids were grown. I guess he worked, right? And then he had his little book publishing thing, spreading the word that the world was coming to an end, how to be a prepper, etc. He gets involved with her and his whole world turns upside down. Let's face it. She must have just rocked his world. There was you just got to wonder. You just have to wonder if that's what he really thought. Let's see, will Lori have anything via Zoom from Arizona? Will they have to wait for the Idaho conclude? Yeah, hopefully. I just saw that question, but Audrey, good question. Yes, I think everything will be resolved. They'll have a warrant for her arrest. She'll have a detainer if she's sent to prison. She's not going anywhere. Even if everything, she'd be sent straight to Arizona, but it's not going to happen before that. I'd be very surprised. I mean, this will be on the books. The evidence will be there waiting in boxes. When she shows up, she'll get a court-appointed counsel unless she hired someone. Alpha Femme wants to know, pro bono doesn't pay the bills. That's right. It doesn't, because nobody's paying the bill. You are basically volunteering your time. And, obviously there's a need. Everybody, I think one people could say that kind of like medical care, if you need it, you need to get it. Well, what about a lawyer? I need a lawyer. Why can't I have a lawyer? Lawyers are expensive. Yes, they are. So what are you to do? And people, in the criminal world, they're you can either afford an attorney, you afford a bunch of attorneys, or you qualify for the public defender. Or you fit in maybe that little donut hole where you aren't in custody, so you don't get an automatic attorney. You don't make enough money to hire a private attorney, but you make too much to qualify for a public defender. And then what are you supposed to do, right? You're screwed. And then you go hire, some attorney that'll take your case for $500. I mean, scary stuff. But, we're talking about one's liberty. You shouldn't go cheap on whenever your liberty is at stake. Krista says here in a super chat, Britney Spears filed to end the conservatorship. Haven't seen that, but hopefully that works out for her as well. Okay, Stephanie wants to know. Okay, in your opinion, was Casey Anthony guilty? OJ, question mark. Well, they were both found not guilty, which is different from innocent, right? Just means the case wasn't proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Casey Anthony, her attorneys did a really good job. They did a great job. OJ's attorneys, I don't think they necessarily did the greatest job, but you had probably one of the worst judges in the history of the world, that judge, I think it was Lance Ito in the OJ case, who turned literally a 2-week homicide trial in any other jurisdiction into, a year-long event, right? I remember the thing would never end. I had motion, he would just let everybody talk and talk and talk, like gain some control of the proceedings. And I remember I was in law school when that stuff was going on. So, they were not guilty in the eyes of the law. And whether you like it or not, that's the way it is. Just like when somebody's found guilty, that means as a matter of law and as a matter of fact, they're guilty of that offense. And when they're found not guilty, as a matter of law and as a matter of fact, they're found not guilty. So it's probably not what you were hoping for an answer, Stephanie, but that's my answer and I'm sticking to it. All right. I mean, they were found not guilty at trial. The government failed to prove the case. Remember, difference between not guilty and innocent. The Pikerton murders. Is that the one in Iowa, Ohio? The Pikerton murders? I think that was the one. It's like 3 years ago where the family had a little dispute and they went over and they killed like the rest of the family or something. I think that was the case. We started following that case early on when we did this, and then it just kind of stopped because everybody was arrested. I think they were going to go death penalty stuff, and it just kind of fizzled out. I think a couple of people have taken plea deals in there, but the cases are all pending. Most of them are pending. I think a couple have taken plea deals in which to avoid the death penalty. because I think there's it was like a child custody dispute. It's been a while since I've looked at it closely, but I think there was a child custody dispute, and the one family was like, like Hatfield and McCoy's. We'll go over and we'll show them, and they go over to the other farmhouse in the middle of the night and like kill everybody. And I can't remember the exact number, but it was. It's a bad case, and it wasn't good, for sure. So let's see here. State Hospital, Blackfoot, and State Hospital, North and Orfino. Okay, that's something about the stuff being locked down. Okay, yeah, Cheryl says the Doomsday Mom Lifetime movie, the full movie is on YouTube. That's where I was going to go watch. I was going to go up to my patio. I think I even asked the lovely Miss Kristen to join me on the patio to watch the movie last night, and that's when the call came in. So needless to say, we didn't do it. And I don't think she watched it on her own. We've been getting into that, was it Manifest? You ever watched that? Pretty good show, but... didn't get to watch it yet. Maybe tonight when I get done with this and then our Patreon show. And remember, if you haven't joined our Patreon show, we'll continue this with a little twist. What is that little twist, you may add or may ask? Yes, we will be able to take phone calls. So you can call in and we can have a conversation. And I'm telling you, we've had some of the most interesting people who have been Patreon members. We had a very nice woman who does mitigation on death penalty cases. She's a Patreon member. She called in, told us about what she does. We had a guy that lived in Madison County right there. Said, hey, if you guys are going to come in, this is what you need to do. If you come into town, call me. We'll take you to the good restaurant, so to speak, there. Go check out everything that's taken place. So, yeah, it's a good time. And then we do stuff like, the Magic 8 Ball. We ask the Magic 8 Ball the questions. It's been wrong a couple of times, but for the most part, it always comes up right. Ashley, first live. I'm glad. Carrie, no, the public defender might know what he's doing. We won't get into the marriage rumors between Mark Means. I don't even know if Mark Means married. I don't know if he is or not. I don't think so. Oh, maybe he's married. He's got to be married. Is there insurance you can get that covers attorney's costs? There are some legal plans out there. However, I've never been really impressed with any that I've seen because you pay this premium and it's like, oh yeah, they'll do like a speeding or parking ticket for you, I think. But if you need real help, you have to go pay the attorney. Maybe you get it at a discounted rate if they're in this plan, It doesn't work in criminal cases, but in civil cases, if you can always look to your homeowner's insurance if you need an attorney. Doesn't work so well in criminal cases. I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this name. Trijntje. Alex Cox named as a co-conspirator, even though he's dead. Yes, interesting, is it not? Not subject to cross-examination. It's the type of thing that you simply, charging it and proving it are one thing. What's going on?
Reading the comments here.
Oh. At checking convictions, Scott had said it was spot on when he gave his live. Oh my God, I can't even pay my health insurance most months. I can't even imagine what it cost. Oh my God, I can't imagine him trying to work with another attorney. He'd be a disaster. Who's this? I just want to look at something. I saw some. Okay. Interesting. You never. Some people just. It's interesting. what people say in the comments. It's very, very interesting sometimes. Not only, I'm not here, but in other stuff that comes by as well. A bunch of keyboard warriors. Not guilty is not innocent. That's true. That's what I said. Yeah, the OJ, that was a forever trial, wasn't it? Wow, we have a lot of comments tonight. Wow, I can barely keep up. When will the discovery in the Daybell case be released to the public? Is that only after the trial's done? Normally, that's the case. Yes. Normally, that is the case. The Watts trial, the Watts case, that was released. We got, gosh, as soon as he pled guilty and sentenced, it was like, boom, here's the stuff. And normally it's a pain in the butt to get discovery from a homicide case that you were not involved in any particular way. Correct, Julie? Nobody at the district attorney's office ever seems to be of any interest. The Watts case was different because you had a lot of news media that wanted the discovery, and I think everybody just said, fine, here you go, have it. We'll just have to wait and see. Let's see here. I was confused. I know that if a defendant dies, then his charge is automatically dismissed. Now they won't get off no matter what. Your information now. I know they won't get off no matter what. Okay, I'm not sure. Will prosecuting them separately affect the outcome of the trial? I don't think so. And, let's talk about that. Normally, remember, John Pryor, the attorney for Chad Daybell, he wanted separate trials from day one. And I totally agree with that. I would not want to be sitting next to Lori Vallow and her attorney. But Lori Vallow was like, hey, we want to have that joint trial. Let's do this thing. And Pryor was like, no, don't do it. Because he knows, I think he has a better grasp of what he's doing. He's a criminal defense attorney. He's done a lot of these cases, all right? And you, as a defense attorney, you want to be able to point your finger at somebody that's not there to defend themselves, right? When you read, the indictment for Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, for the murder, I just happen to have a copy right here. First degree murder, the way they charged it, did aid and abet in the commission or not being present, advise or encourage commission or command. Okay, prove it, right? Prove it. And they can bring in all the evidence they want, but they're going to have to try to bring in these statements to make them non-hearsay. Statements that are made in furtherance of the conspiracy are not hearsay. But you still have to be able to lay the evidentiary foundation as to who wrote the statements. Just because it's on a phone doesn't mean that the owner of the phone wrote it, right? You have to be able to say the person behind the phone is the defendant making the statements or a co-conspirator, and those were actually made in furtherance of the conspiracy. But if they withdrew or the object of the conspiracy was done, then usually those statements and anything after that don't come in. And if there's any statements like we talked about that are admission by a party opponent, yes, those would come in, right? But you still have to be able to lay the foundation that those came from that particular phone and that he's the one that had access to the phone. He didn't let anybody borrow that phone, right? So they still have issues. But the evidence is more likely to come in as a whole if you have both the co-conspirators sitting there. Because, they're going to say, Judge, if it's not a co-conspirator statement, it's an admission by a party opponent. And then the one defendant's going to say, we object, Your Honor, it's hearsay, it's prejudicial, 403, move for severance. It's just cleaner to do a separate trial. I get it. I know the prosecution doesn't want to do it again. But welcome to the world, right? It's criminal defense, criminal prosecution. You have to do the case over again sometimes. And frankly, it usually only helps the prosecution as they go on. Okay? If I have a multi-co-defendant case and I am going to go to trial, and I know I'm going to go to trial, I'm going to say, Judge, I want to go first. Why, you might ask? Well, because every time the prosecution goes to trial, it's literally like practicing it. Think about it. If you do something once, you read something, you practice a speech, you're building a birdhouse. I don't know. Probably gets a little better and a little easier the more times that you do it, correct? Same thing in court. So if you can practice it and you say, well, that didn't come across great last time, I won't do that again this time. The defense, you only got one shot at it. Why would you want more people testifying over and over again, right? You're going to say, well, the prosecution witness testified A, B, and C. And you said, well, Mr. Witness, previously you testified instead of A, B, and C to D, E, and F. And he's going to say, yeah, but all the other times it was A, B, and C. And that's the truth. Oh, and here's the transcript as a prior consistent statement, which is not hearsay. So here you have to consider that, right? So multi-co-defendant case, I want to go first. I want to be the first one in there where the prosecution still doesn't have their ducks in a row. They haven't practiced the case a bazillion times. So I think that Mark Means is in a good spot. And hey, I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. If I was a betting man, I'd say Chad Daybell's going to get convicted of something for sure. But you never know. And now, who do you have to blame while you're sitting there all by yourself? The woman that everybody knows is crazy and her crazy brother, who's now dead and who probably conspired to kill people. And Chad's going to say, well, there was a conspiracy. They didn't charge me, down in Arizona. This woman's crazy. Who knows what she and her brother would have done, right? So things are working out for Mr. Pryor and his client, Chad Daybell. He's gotten rid of the dead weight, and he's gotten rid of a co-defendant that, frankly, is not going to do him any good. And now he gets to throw her under the bus as the crazy woman who goes around killing people, conspiring to kill people. Now, that probably will not come into evidence. However, maybe the defense wants to try to bring it in what they refer to as kind of a reverse 404B evidence to show that, Lori Vallow's just, she's crazy. And her brother is probably crazy. And guess what? They're probably killers. And, that's just the way it is. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Let's see if we can take some more super chats here. Thank you, Scott, and your amazing mods. Yes, our moderators are great. They do this. I think we've sent some things out to them in the past, but we appreciate the mods. Be nice to the mods. They're doing their best. They've been given the guidance. Obviously, we can agree to disagree, but you need to do it respectfully. Otherwise, YouTube starts cracking down on us as well. So, like I said, you can agree to disagree. Just do it respectfully. We don't ask for a bunch of mind-numb robots of people saying they have to agree with everything that Scott says. Frankly, if you disagree with me, let me know. You kind of jump to the head of the list. We'll chat with you first. I have no problem defending my opinion. And hey, who knows? Maybe you'll change my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something I don't know about yet. Rebecca, what about Chad's late wife's autopsy? hasn't been made public to anyone, and that was one of the documents that Mr. Means believes should have been turned over, which has not been turned over as of yet. I agree. Tammy, Chad killed his wife. Well, he's been charged with it, that's for sure. We don't know exactly why they came to that conclusion. We'll just have to wait and see. Justice must be served. I don't care if the prosecuting attorney starves, if the defense attorney starves, if the judge starves. Men are either honorable or they are not, and trials will bring that out. Okay. But most people aren't going to work for free. Who here goes to work for free? There's a difference between volunteering, because you know you're not going to get paid. But most people, they expect to get paid for their time and their services that they provide. Human animal. Chan is clearly deranged and cold individual. The idea to kill the children most likely came from him. We'll have to see. Let's see. I'm not sure who said this. L.A. Scott is A1 lawyer. I've worked GTA, Toronto, Law Bay Street 30 years, and I know how to see it. I'm not sure what the previous comment was. Sometimes it looks like a previous comment, but then you got to read it and figure it out. There's let's see, a couple more questions here. Scott, I was asking about if Alex is a scapegoat, what would happen to Chad and Lori? My question was answered earlier. They're just still co-conspirators. They can't get off just because he died. No, but the government still has to prove a conspiracy. So that's what is going to be interesting to see, what evidence the government has to prove this conspiracy. Remember, and here's the thing, remember, and like I said, obviously we don't have the discovery. I don't know what evidence they have. The grand jury found probable cause. Probable cause is a much lower standard of proof than proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And simply put, we don't know what they have. But remember, the police down there already had previously ruled this as self-defense, right? Self-defense. And then they changed their minds. So unless there's some earth-shattering new evidence that came about, you know, basically they're going to have to defend themselves. The police, the investigators, prosecutors are going to have to defend themselves, trying to show that this was a legitimate investigation versus some politically motivated way for some prosecutor to get their name in the paper to prosecute Lori Vallow. I mean, that's some angle that some attorney, whoever is going to represent her, is going to have to look at, because they basically cleared old Alex Cox. He was never charged. So you just never know. All right. Wow. Can you look at that? Already an hour. My goodness. Already an hour. But you know what we have to do? We have to go to our Patreon show. So if you haven't already become a Patreon, now's your time to do so. You'll get the magic link. We'll send it to you. You'll be able to tune in. We'll answer more questions because obviously there's less people there. And on top of that, you can call in. We'll take your calls. Love talking with callers. Smart people, great questions. And usually sometimes they educate everybody. So join us. Become a Patreon. It's not much, but you basically now we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about, not whatever I want to talk about. So we can do that. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. We always appreciate that. Share it. Hit that little bell so you receive notifications of when we go live or put up new content, as always. So obviously a lot of news. Check out the video we put up today. Old Mark Means, he's all fired up. Fired up. He'll have a hearing on Thursday. We'll see if he gets his request of attorney's fees, because he believes he's owed $4,000 for the state wasting your time. So we'll just have to wait and see. I saw some question here. Already went by. we'll have to see. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. Never a dull moment with Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, the gift that keeps on giving. For those who didn't see it, Lori Vallow charged with conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree, conspiracy with her brother Alex Cox to kill Charles Vallow. We'll see if she ever makes it to Arizona. We'll definitely have to watch, wait and see. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see all our Patreons there in just a few minutes.